Reading with your kids.
Hey, so great to see you. Come on in. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We're so delighted that you're part of our beautiful Reading with Your Kids family. We would be so honored if you would take the time to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, Podbean, and now we're available on Ghana in India. Today, our guest is D M Henry-Welsh. He is the author of Wrong Place, Wrong Time. If you are the author of a great children's book, you may be feeling like you are in the wrong place at the wrong time right now in terms of trying to promote your book. I mean, all of the traditional ways that authors get to promote their books to kids, school visits, library visits, book signings, for the most part, they are not available. And it makes it really difficult. How are you going to help your book stand out from the crowd of books that are published every single month? Well, we have a program that has helped a lot of authors. It's called the Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read Program. If our panel believes that your book is worthy of 4 or 5 out of 5 stars, it becomes a Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read. And with that status comes a whole lot of great tools to really help your book stand out. You can learn more about it by going to our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Click on the Author Services button at the top of the page. Find out about this really powerful program. Joining us on the line right now from London in the United Kingdom, he is the author of a great book called Wrong Place, Wrong Time. Please welcome to the show, D M Henry-Welsh. Daniel, how are you?
I'm very, very good. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Really excited to learn more about this book, Wrong Place, Wrong Time. It's a book for middle grade kids, young adults.
Yeah, and also sort of younger generation. It's really been taken up by sort of 8 to 10-year-olds in particular.
Awesome. Was that a surprise to you?
Yeah, it was. The book was originally sort of pitched at 12 to sort of 15. So it was a pleasant and positive response to the book that younger kids, and young people across the world are invested in the book.
It's really cool. Now, you mentioned, I definitely want to get into the story and learn about the characters, but you mentioned that it's being embraced by readers all over the world. What's that like as an author to be alive, to be writing right now at this time in history where you can, create a book and it is literally accessible to almost everybody in the world?
It's amazing. My initial thoughts on the book and the direction I wanted to take was to help young people within the UK, those that potentially face going into the justice system. And I suppose I didn't think further than the borders of the UK because our justice system is quite unique. There are other justice systems that follow in certain ways, but it's really travelled. It's really reached out to young people. More so for the storyline. Obviously, the justice system, as I mentioned, is the UK's way. But it's the characters and the story and how young people can be in the wrong place at the wrong time. I suppose reached out to more young people than I imagined.
Well, I imagine no matter what justice system that you're living under, that idea of being in the wrong place at the wrong time, that's a pretty universal thing, especially for kids who are teenagers. Definitely.
Yeah. And that's probably where I didn't look broader enough, but I'm very appreciative that it's gone to the States, it's gone to Europe, it's gone into Australia, it's gone quite far.
So let's get into it. What's the story? Who are we going to meet when we read Wrong Place, Wrong Time?
So the story itself is based around 3 main characters. They all come from different backgrounds. They all come from different races and religions. And the story behind it is really to break some stereotypes. It's to break what the myths are around certain individuals and characters, but also the myths and sort of the untruths in terms of the justice system. Halima, James and Sheldon are a group of friends that end up in the wrong place, wrong time. I'm not going to tell you the full story in terms of how they get in trouble, but they do something that starts them on a path, on a journey within the justice system. And they all go down their own path in terms of how they're treated, how they respond, how their families become involved. And it really gives you an insight to the dynamics, not only of the justice system and how different people are treated, but also how different families and solicitors and financial status can support you, especially within the UK. For the listeners that are not from the UK and don't understand, if you are arrested, you get a duty solicitor. And, you know, it's not a proven thing, but it's definitely something that, duty solicitors are there to do a job. They do it on the most part very well. But obviously some people who can afford solicitors, you know, through their family, through their own finances, tend to go for that because of the service they get. And it takes you on a journey, through being arrested, going to the police station, being interviewed, going to the youth offending team. And yeah, it takes you on a very exciting journey.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't, the folks, especially here in the United States, who don't speak English, when Dan is referring to a solicitor, he's talking about what we call is an attorney. And from what you're saying, it sounds like the, you know, justice, it really differs depending on your race, and also, it sounds like it a lot depends on how much the resources that you have, how wealthy you are, and whether or not you're able to afford your own attorney or a solicitor.
Most definitely. The disproportionality within the UK and the justice system, there's research, there's articles, there's everything that would show you certain people from certain backgrounds or certain environments will be affected in different ways. And although this is pitched for a young person, young adult, it starts to, like I said, show you the stereotypes and what people may face. But also there's a few curveballs in there that make you think and look at things differently. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's part of what I try to implement in writing the story, to keep it, you know, young people focused and easy to read for the young person reading it, and also for the parent if they wanted to read alongside, but also to challenge the mindset of some young people who might be a bit naive or not used to the different systems, which obviously is a good thing, and hopefully it keeps them out.
Yeah. You know, you mentioned this is a really timely interview here. I know the book was published in 2019, but as you're probably aware, here in the United States, you know, this disparity, this inequity has been going on for a long time. Certainly folks, you know, who are from different races are treated differently in the judicial system here, and also certainly people who have more resources, who are wealthier, tend to have better results when they end up in the judicial system. I don't know why I'm having such a hard time with that word. I used to work in the judicial system. What is it just the wealth that makes a difference, or are there racial differences too in the UK?
There's so many different layers to the issues that will be raised, I suppose, within the book, but that people face within the UK on a daily basis. A lot of it does come down to race and class. Some of it is definitely the financial aspect, the environment, the education or the lack of education. A lot of it for young people, I think, is around the lack of understanding, and a lot of young people, so you're equivalent to our solicitor of attorney. Over here, you do have the right to remain silent. You can say no comment on an interview, and that on some occasions is the advice of the attorney slash solicitor. But a lot of young people, due to lack of education, with all of the stuff that's, you know, added to them being there because of their race, colour or environment, for example, when they get to that stage and they're saying no comment or they're refusing to talk at interview, you know, it's just another layer that perpetuates the cycle that young people and even adults go through and sometimes don't come out. And it's a real shame. And that was the basis of the book, to try and help younger people see those complexities early on and make decisions to hopefully keep them out of that cycle.
What inspired you to write Wrong Place, Wrong Time?
So like you, I've worked in the justice system. I've worked in the justice system and with young people for over 10 years. I started off as a prison officer in a very, very notorious and violent prison, one of the top most violent prisons in Europe at the time. I then moved on to work in the youth offending team, and then I now work in an outer London youth service. And I think for me, working from the tough end, the hard end, you know, the end of the road to the start of where I work now at the very early intervention prevention stage, I saw where on some levels some young people were failed, and where some young people could have had teachable moments that changed their course for the better and stay away from the negativity of the justice system and the justice world. And that really gave me the passion to write this book, and hopefully in the future there is meant to be 2 more books that follow, to really map out how the justice system works in the UK. But that's the passion, that's the drive behind the book and why I wrote it.
Well, I have to take my hat off to you. I had a similar kind of journey. I didn't work in an adult prison, but I worked in the juvenile justice system and worked in a couple of detention facilities for youthful offenders, and then came out and worked with kids re-socializing into the community, getting back into school, helping them get job training. One of the things that I experienced here, and it was such a frustration, and it was ultimately the reason why I left, it was so difficult. Once a kid gets caught up in the system, they're labeled, and it's very, very difficult for them to get out of it, even when they're doing their best and really working hard. It's, you know, when they go back into the communities, people still know, oh, that's so and so, and he did this, and no, I'm not going to hire him. I don't want him back in my school. I don't want him living near me. I don't want my kids socializing with them. Is that something that it still exists today in the UK?
Most definitely. Labels and I would say that sort of blame culture is part and parcel of how young people, in particular the ones that end up in the criminal justice system, is sort of played out from a young age. You know, a 2-3-year-old that messes around in nursery, or I believe you call it kindergarten. Mm-hmm. If they mess around and they get angry, they get aggressive, or they physically lash out, that young person is automatically then labelled. And in some cases, depending on the behaviour, it's warranted. In other cases, it might be that there's a learning need, or it might be that it was just a one-off. But that label tends to travel with that young person for many years. And then when it gets to a young adult, and, you know, by law they can be arrested and all the other things that follow, those labels become hurdles that when they become an adult, like you said, I don't want to employ that person, or I don't want that person back in my school or college. It really plays a massive difference for young people who want to try and come out or want to try and turn their life around, because they live with the previous experience of what they've done. And in most cases, as long as the justice system has done what it's done, if they've been found or proven guilty, the process is played out. It's the aftermath and the following labels and sort of society's views that really do the damage, because if they're trying to make a difference and trying to change, they kind of don't really have a chance if they're already sort of set back a little bit.
Yeah. That was one of the things that was frustrating for me and ultimately led to me leaving. I had situations where literally you'd have to take a school system to court to allow for them to accept a child back into a school setting. Having one of my clients arrested, and being told when I went to see them, the police saying, no, he was here on such and such a night, and we have witnesses to see him doing this, and I'm like, he was at the circus with me. I have a ticket. I know. And that was 35 years ago, and it's still happening. What do you think we can do about this?
That's a good question. To kind of echo what you said, I'm in transition to kind of come out of that system myself. I'm looking at things more therapeutically. I'm training to be a counsellor. I'm also training to be a systemic worker as well. So I'm still maintaining the support for young people, but in a different way. I think similar to what's going on, and I'll use what's going on in the world today with COVID, with Black Lives Matter movement, and everything that's going on that has a massive impact across the world. I think topics like youth justice or justice as a whole, we really need to sit down and have serious, open and honest conversations. Not the conversations that we have to win political points or to win elections or just to keep someone in school or to keep them out. Real serious change and reform in how services and systems work. I use a lot of the time when I go to certain meetings, this is more historic. If the justice system in this world, in this country in particular, and the States, was a private organisation, which I don't know if it is private or public, to be honest, so excuse me, and we had a reoffending rate, which we currently did, it was between 70 and 80%, we'd be seen in the private sector as working poorly. A lot of people would lose their jobs. A lot of people would be looking at it and saying, what's going wrong? But maybe because it's public, maybe because there's so many different layers, as I said before, there needs to be communication and there needs to be action. There needs to be change, not just 3 years because a political party or a specific person is in power. There needs to be long-term investment because it's proven. Everyone knows, research suggests that early intervention and prevention works. It saves a lot of money down the road, and it changes people's lives a lot better. And then what you'll get as well is for professionals like me and yourself and anyone else listening, you won't get the staff that want to leave because change is not happening or it gets frustrating. It'll be a career that people want to stay and support and really see the benefit of. So you kind of get an all-round winning team, really.
Yeah, that you're so right. There are so many kids who at preschool, kindergarten are kind of, if you're looking at them, you say, boy, if something doesn't happen to help this kid, to change the trajectory of this kid's life, the kid's going to end up in prison, and that's going to cost a lot more than it would have cost to get the kid the help and the support they needed when they were 5, 6, 7 years old. It's frustrating. You're bringing back so many bad memories. Hey,
I'm not trying to do that purposely.
No, but I think it's important because, like I said, it was 35 years ago that I was dealing with this. And I know that it was happening before that. And it's just a cycle, and it's not just, so it's in the States, it's in the UK. I imagine it's, universal around the world.
Definitely.
And we need to make a change. It's just the right thing to do. And I think part of the change is going to come from families having conversations about this. And not just
Definitely.
listening to whoever's running for office. What kind of conversations do you think families can have if they take the time to co-read Wrong Place, Wrong Time together?
So the book has been written for, as I said, young people, young adults. It's also been written very, very very specific for young people with learning needs, because it's a proven fact that a lot of young people who have additional needs end up in the justice system. It's actually quite high in the UK. As a parent and as a child, if you're reading this together, you can take each section within its own merit and learn, obviously, the story and read the story and be engrossed by the different characters and where they come from, but actually the process of the part the book plays. So if I'm looking in the book, which I have next to me right now, chapter 2 is called Book It In, chapter 3 is the interview, chapter 4 is the written statement, and it goes through each chapter as you would follow the process. But like I said, it also brings the conversation to the forefront for the parents. And I think when you're reading the chapter, don't just read it because it's a book that's great, wonderful, I hope you enjoy it, but read it to kind of ask questions, see from the chapter what your son or your daughter or what your parent has learnt from that chapter. Did you know this? Did you know that? What did you think? Would you have done what Halima had done, for example? Would you have said the thing that James had said if you was in that situation? And I think those types of conversations, it encourages that approach with parent and child to really look into the book a lot more and look at it from people's perspectives.
Yeah. That's so important, and I think it's very, very important for kids to understand at an early age what the system's about, what their rights are. Not only so that having a conversation so that we can make the world a better place and more just place for everybody in the future, but also for helping kids if they get caught up in the system to understand that when they are arrested and interviewed, that they have the right to an attorney, they have a right to stay silent and not to incriminate themselves. And I would say that any 14 or 15-year-old or 16-year-old who is, finds himself in trouble, even if they didn't do anything wrong, it would be a real good idea for them to be quiet until they have an attorney with them, because it's a crazy situation to be in if you're an adult, let alone a kid whose mind hasn't fully formed yet.
Definitely, and I think following on from what you said, that if they've read this book, or if they've just read up on the justice system, or it was taught more in school, shall we say, the fact that they go in with more knowledge, and maybe they've had that discussion with their parents, a lot of their responses and how they interact with professionals and what they feel and how they feel when they're in the police station or they're being arrested, a lot of that will go back to what their parents have taught them. When I grew up, it was very much don't get arrested, don't bring the police to my house. Mm-hmm. And some children might still have that style of parenting. Others might have a more all-rounded, we'll talk about this as a family, or some parents just shut off from the whole thing and don't want to engage. Mm-hmm. So I think it provokes, like I said, not only those big conversations at very high levels, but those family conversations and those topics that might be a little bit difficult and become even more difficult when the situation happens.
Yeah. And it's so much better to talk about this and hopefully prevent problems than to have to have that conversation after the kid has already been involved in the justice system.
Definitely.
Yeah. As I'm talking here and I'm thinking about the conversations families can have and hopefully helping kids develop an empathy for kids, their peers who get caught up in the system, and hopefully motivating them to work to create a more equitable system for everyone. I'm reminded of a great conversation we had here on the podcast with Father Greg Boyle, who wrote Tattoos on the Heart and also Barking to the Choir. He founded the Homeboy Industries in Los Angeles, California, which is the largest gang intervention program in the world.
Wow.
And they're doing incredible things, helping people, who had been through the justice system for decades, helping them get out of gangs and get into, become families again and get into jobs and becoming productive people and happy people. I think that this would be a great kind of way to spend a few weeks as a family, sitting down and reading Wrong Place, Wrong Time, and learning about the system, and then reading one of Father Greg Boyle's books afterwards to talk about what can be done, how we can take the empathy that we developed reading Wrong Place, Wrong Time, and make something change in our communities.
Sounds great.
Yeah. Tell everybody, please, Daniel, where they can get more information about your book, and so that they can know when future chapters of the series are available.
No problem. So you can follow me on Instagram at Dan_the author. The book itself is on Amazon, Waterstones, and Foils, or you can order from me directly if you send me a direct message on Instagram. But a lot of the updates and what I'm doing and what the plans are moving forward, especially for those in London, in the UK, the schools that I might be visiting to do talks or workshops, it'll all be on Instagram.
Awesome. We've had a great time talking to the author of Wrong Place, Wrong Time, D M Henry-Welsh. Hey, Daniel, thanks so much for taking this time with us today.
No, thank you very much for inviting me. I've had a great time.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Tamara Hecht. She'll be back to celebrate a brand new addition to her Monsterville series called A Viral Message. Really, really timely book. That's the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We let you know early on the show that our Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read program is helping a whole lot of authors help their books stand out from the crowd of books that are published every single month. Lori Olinsky, she is a two-time Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read author. She has a background in marketing. Before she became a children's author, she was a very successful marketing manager. And she loves the program. She says that the program gives her more confidence when she is approaching a bookstore or school for a school visit, or more appropriately for this time, when she is approaching a newspaper or other publication. So check it out today. Go to our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Click on that author services button at the top of the page. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so very wonderful. Of course, I want to thank our guest, D M Henry-Welsh. Be sure to check out Wrong Place, Wrong Time. I also want to thank my amazing producer, Fatima Khan. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me, but most of all, I think I need to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, and as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.